Hi guys, so in today's video I'm going to be talking about whether or not Islam oppresses women. However, I'm not actually going to be answering it in a yes or no format. I'm going to leave that up for you to decide, because quite frankly, as a man, it is not up to me to say whether yes or no something does or does not oppress women, because I'm not a woman. And lads, with all due respect, you need to stay out of this one. Don't jump in my comment section giving your opinions on whether or not it does, because quite frankly, if you're a man, you have no right to speak on this. You don't. What I am going to be talking about is why the laws within Islam that pertain to women, if you will, are there, and kind of why they were brought about and the situations in which they were brought about in. So the first thing first is the hijab, the headscarf. Now, when I say hijab, I'm specifically referring to the headscarf here. I'm not referring to the concept of hijab, which is the concept of modesty in general, which men also have to abide by, and we have our own rules and regulations for. But yeah, the reason why the headscarf was brought in, and obviously through there the face veil and everything else, was because at the time of the Prophet, before he announced his prophethood, and even just before the Prophet was even born, really, women in Arabia and in the surrounding area used to wear head coverings. Only difference was it came to, I think, about here. Basically they used to wear kind of a turban, if you will. And it used to come down in two trails above that. It used to come down and behind the neck and over the chest. So they used to have maybe kind of a bit of a bare patch of skin here. And, like I say, the ears and the neck and everything are uncovered. So when the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, brought in the ruling of the hijab in regards to the full covering, it wasn't meant to restrict women in any way. It was not a drastic change from what they were already wearing. It was basically because of men. And ladies, as I'm sure you'll agree with me here, men are stupid. We are. When a beautiful woman comes along, our IQ just goes, gone. It is. That's how we are. Lads, you kind of have to admit this. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons why it's stressed so much, I guess I should say, that women should cover up. It's not to restrict women or oppress women in any way or form. It's because men are men. And that's also why we have the rules in there regarding, the protection of women in regards to their chastity and their virtue, is because, quite frankly, some men, unfortunately, do need to be told that no means no. And so, yeah, that's the reason why the kind of coverings are there. And also, a study was done in Egypt, I believe it was, and where they asked men what they felt about women who were covered up and women who weren't covered up. And a lot of these men actually said that they felt less comfortable approaching a woman who was covered up than one who wasn't. And personally, whether, cultural reasons and also religious reasons as well. But yeah, that's generally what the studies found. Yeah, that's genuinely why, the laws are in place that they are. In regards to, obviously women not being allowed the right to drive, there's nothing in Islam that says that. That is a Saudi cultural thing which they like to use to oppress women. In regards to female genital mutilation, there is nothing in Islam about that whatsoever, because quite frankly it's been around twice as long as Islam has been. And I've done the math on this. It's been around about 2,800 years, whereas Islam's only been around about 1,400. The reason why it's considered part of Islam is because it was in areas that Islam then spread to, which people have then kind of co-opted and used the verses of Islam to kind of back up in an excuse to oppress women and treat them as second-class citizens, which in Islam isn't true. Islam was giving women rights long before Western Europe was. Under Islam, women do not have to contribute whatsoever to the household financially. They are allowed to earn their own money, have their own education. They are not meant just to be there to, cook, clean, and give birth to children. As a man, when I'm married, I do have to help my wife out with any chores she may be doing. Yeah, that's why. The reason why, for example, the women aren't supposed to leave the house without a guardian, for example, is not because we believe women are going to get up to something. It's because, again, men. It's to protect them from other men, basically. Because, ladies, again, as I'm sure you'll be aware, no matter how, some men do not understand that no means no, and like I say, unfortunately, they just don't understand that. And so, yeah, that's why men are considered the protector of women. Yeah. So, yeah, that's that part. ruling pertaining to women, obviously, like I say, in regards to marriage, is she's entitled to her own dowry. The man is not entitled to that money at all. She's allowed to earn her own wages, get her own education. She has to contribute nothing financially to the household at all. She is expected to live within her husband's means, because obviously if the man is the only one who's providing money for the household, she should live in a way that he is able to pay for her, basically. And quite frankly, I feel that's fair. You know, also as a man, I believe that, you know, for example, if I was married and my wife was the only one who was working, it should then be up to me to cook and clean. And, you know, she should not have to come home after working a full day and then have to cook and clean for me. I personally don't agree with that. She would be my wife, not my servant. If I wanted a maid and a chef, I would pay for one. So, yeah, those are those ones. In regards to, obviously, not shaking hands with a woman, this is not because we feel that women are second-class citizens again. It's quite frankly because as I'm a man who is not married to you, I do not have the right or the honour of touching you. That's basically what all it is. Islam puts women very, very high up on a pedestal. To the fact that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, honoured many women, including Mary, the mother of Jesus. A man once went to the Prophet, and this is a very well-known hadith, and asked, you know, obviously after my duties to Allah, then when do my duties go to after, Allah and yourself? And the Prophet said, to your mother. He said, well, what about after that? He said, to your mother. And he said, well, yeah, but after that, he goes, to your mother. And he goes, fine, what about after my mother then? He goes, then to your father. So you owe 3 times much more to your mother than you do to your father. A man, after the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, died, another man came to one of his successors and said, I've carried my mother all through the pilgrimage of Hajj with her on my back. You know, how have I done, sort of thing? Is that a good thing to do? The successor in question turned around and said, you have not even paid her back for 1 tear that she shed on the day that you were born. That's how much Islam honours women. It's not about oppressing them whatsoever. I understand, obviously, living in the West, that we may feel, quite different about that, on the grounds that, we can only really see what the media tells us, if you've never lived in the Middle East. So, ladies, if you truly feel that way, what I would personally recommend, as a Muslim in general, is speak to women who do wear the hijab. Speak to women who do wear a face veil. Ask them how they feel about it. Ask them why they wear it. And I'm almost 100% sure, because I cannot think of a reason why they wouldn't tell you, unless you just randomly stopped one in the street and they were really busy, is, they would be generally happy to speak to you about this. And also, another reason is when you look at what goes on in nightclubs, for example, women will always go to the bathroom in pairs. Whenever women leave, they always make sure they leave with their friends, because they're terrified of walking home alone. If they are walking home alone, they usually have to hold their keys between their fingers, like Wolverine's claws, which, for the record, ladies, don't hold them like that. It doesn't work. Hold them between your thumb and your forefinger, just because if you hold them between your other ones, when you go for someone's face, you can push the keys back into your fingers and hurt yourself. So, yeah, when you look at the way that obviously women feel in Western society, how they do feel, like I say, they can't walk home alone, that they've got to have a weapon on them, or they've got to have a group with them to make sure they feel safe. That's why Islam seems so strict, if you will, when it comes to women. It's because it knows what men are like. That's why those rules are in place. Like I say, they weren't there to oppress women. They were there to keep them safe from men. And yeah, that's generally it. So yeah, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. Lads, again, don't start jumping in here and, trying to debate this. Like I say, we're men. We do not have the right to say specifically if a woman should or should not feel oppressed by something. I've merely just stated the facts. That's all. It's up for them. It's up for women, to have their own opinion on this. But yeah, guys, that's all for today. Until next time, peace.